Welcome back to the Everything Property Podcast. Today's guest doesn't really need an introduction because he also runs a successful podcast with his business partner, Daniel, that you should be listening to by now. But in case you haven't, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome residential real estate agent, businessman, podcaster, and the handsome man himself, Kevin Buchanan. Welcome to the Everything Property Podcast.
So you just warm the guests up by spruiking me up with a lie. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it.
And it's all downhill from here, man. So
Sick, yes.
Yeah, enjoy. Man, look, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate
and
you having me.
I'll give you a plug and say anyone that hasn't listened to the Bothsides Podcast, definitely check it out. You guys are on a massive trajectory, and I feel like we're in your dust at the moment. You guys are killing it,
Mate, appreciate the kind words, but it's I think it's all been luck for us. That's what it feels like. There's a bit of imposter syndrome, I feel.
Yeah,
but I'll take it. We'll run it. But you guys are doing an exceptional job. Your intros kill us. But
we'll dive into that a little bit later. But first, what I want to know and I want to dive into, because I know there's a bit of a story and it's an interesting tale to tell. But what was Kevin like back at school? What was the goal coming out of school? What did you want to be? Was it real estate agent or what are the thoughts?
Yeah, delving straight into the nitty gritty, huh? Yeah. So, look, my upbringing, childhood was probably not the best. Had a pretty strange relationship with my parents. Ended up homeless at one point, which was not fun. And lived in a trap house, which wasn't great. And then ended up having a partner who, her uncle was like, I don't know, some multi-billionaire developer and everything else. So I was with her for 4 years, and I went from witnessing one side of life, which wasn't fantastic, living on the street, living in trap houses, to the other side where you're seeing, what life can really look like with unlimited amounts of money. So that was the big driver for me coming out of high school, was to make lots of money. Was this
during high school, this relationship?
During high school, yeah.
Okay.
During high school. Yep. So started dating at 15 or 14 or something like
cool.
that.
Yep,
so coming out of high school. So was quite young and with her for quite a while, but saw some things in life which really drew me in. So after high school, I was like, I just need to make lots of money. So I actually tried. So in year 10, I left high school and I tried to become an electrician. Hated the fact that I had to wake up at 6 a.m. Now I wake up earlier. So I quit that and I was like, no way. And that lasted only a couple of months. And then I was like, all right, what do I do? And then someone I knew was doing hairdressing. I was like, oh, I'll try that in Bondi Junction. I was like, I'll try that. Lasted 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then went back to school. It was after the year 10 exam, so I had to repeat the next year. Did year 10 again. Couldn't complete. I just didn't want to do it. Quit that. And I thought, well, my parents bought and sold a lot of real estate when I was younger, and I saw the real estate agents always driving really nice cars. And I thought, I'd like nice cars. I might as well try that. Yeah. Tried it. Luckily, I liked it. And, took off and just hustled like 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
What was the first real estate agent job?
I was an associate at Elders and Toongabbie for a period of 6 months. Lasted 6 months, and then I got poached by a guy at Harcourts in Baulkham Hills. Lasted 4 years as an associate there, and then moved around to several different offices.
Associate straight away, is that entry level for agency?
Entry level.
What are you doing at those early years? Gritting your teeth?
Lots, tons of that. So I door knock and cold call for probably 10, 12 hours a day. Fight like Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday got open homes, and I was that agent. Well, in the second job after the last 6 months, first 6 months, I was doing 12, 14 hour days, and then we were listing so many properties. They were all taking twilight shots, so they're taken at 7, 8 p.m. So I'd work 12 hours and go to a photo shoot for a couple of hours, stand there for absolutely no reason every single night, and then on the weekend, I'd have like 40 to 60 of those directional pointer boards that you might see on the side of the road. Have to wake up at 5 a.m., put all those out by myself, start the open homes at 10, finish them by 3, 4 p.m., call everyone, finish by 8 p.m., 9 p.m. So that was fun.
Like your two first ventures, I am going to assume that as an associate, you're not paid very much money.
Horrible. $450 a week base.
400.
So that was really fun. But
why did you keep going then?
I had no other choice. So at that age, I obviously had no qualifications, nothing really going for me, no family support, nothing getting handed to me. And it was the only job that I saw where I could make a lot of money uncapped, which it still is, without having a university degree, in essence. Well, nothing that I thought I was smart enough to do. Yeah. Obviously, you have, stock trading and everything else, which you can enter with low barriers of entry and start doing yourself. But I don't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I was smart enough, at least, to do that at that point in time.
Okay, but so you thought, this is my only hope, I've got to stay with it.
Yeah.
And you're at Toongabbie for 6 months, associate. When do you sort of roll in to become your own agent and be able to post your own deals?
It wasn't until, so I moved to Strathfield for a couple of years as well. So probably 6 or 7 years in. So I was still an associate for 6 or 7 years, which was longer than the usual by a few years.
Yeah.
I got held back, I feel, quite a lot until I started at Manor Real Estate, moved back to the hills, and my current boss, I thought, had hired me to become his associate. That's what I thought I was doing. So I was moving from Strathfield back to the hills. I needed to start my own brand again, name brand and everything like that. Started, first day rocked up, thought I was going to be an associate. And he goes, no, you're your own agent. I said, what do you mean? I'm like, not good enough to do this. He goes, yes, you are. You've been doing it for 6-7 years. You're your own agent. I thought, what the hell? I'm like, all right, well, I got to make this work now. So I got forced in the deep end and pushed when I should have been pushed years ago. So I'm very thankful that I ended up at Manor.
How did you find, though, that transition? Because it's not as if you're in the same sort of like LGA and you're just moving offices. You're moving totally different areas, right? So you've got to become that area expert again.
Yeah, correct.
Do you realise that?
100%. So that had to do that again. But at the same time, I was living in the hills as well, so it made it tougher to go to Strathfield every day and work 12 hours and this is before the M4. Yeah. So you'd drive for an hour, work 12 hours and drive an hour back. It just killed. So I was like, nah, I'm just going to move back to the hills. It doesn't matter if I have to rework it. It's not like I was making a lot of money anyways. I was an associate. Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm going to get paid the same base. Let's go now. So even though it was tougher at the start, they'd layer it again with Manor Real Estate just started. And they weren't even in Kellyville. So I'd work out of Kellyville, a couple of suburbs removed from Balker Mills. So I would call and say, hey, it's Kevin Buchanan from Manor Real Estate. They'd be like, Manor who? What's Manor? Oh. So it made it a lot harder. The first couple of years I made no money. I think I held the debit award of how much I owed the company for quite a few years.
At Manor or those first 2 ones?
First 2 years of Manor, I owed the most money. And it was really funny. 2 years ago, the accountant at the Manor Real Estate Christmas party, she came and she had a couple of drinks and she goes, I told Jay to fire you. I'm so proud that you're still here. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, you owed the company so much money. I can't believe you didn't fire. I told him to fire you every day. I'm like, oh, thanks, Kirsty. Wow. But it all turned out well.
Tell me though, back in those first 2 offices, was there any mentors, anyone helping you there that you look back on, you're like, oh, I'm really grateful for X being there? Or who were the sort of early guys that showed you how real estate's sort of meant to be run?
So it was that boss after the first 6 months that poached me, Jamie Benjamin. So he worked me extremely hard. And
thanks.
Well, thanks. But the thing is, it built a discipline into me that I didn't really have at all, ever. I was forced discipline, but it's something that I at that time needed. And it got to a point where I was so disciplined and regimented, we were pumping several listings every single month as a young sales associate. Yeah. So in our first year, it was his first year as a standalone agent as well. So he poached me on week 1. That he started as his own standalone agent. In our first year together, with no one else just besides us two, we were like a touch under $1 million GCI. Wow. Now this is going back 13 years ago, so nowadays it feels like $2+ million GCI in our first year.
And how much is he cutting you?
Nothing. But that's what most agents do, so it wasn't fun. But at the same time, it's something that was definitely a necessity. And definitely, if it wasn't for him, I don't think I would have cracked it, to be quite fair with you. It was because of the disciplines I learned.
There? Yeah. And then the move to Manor comes purely locational, or was there any other cell or person around that business?
No.
Location?
No, it was location.
Okay. How do you establish yourself? Tell me, or anyone that's watching that's maybe a young agent or an agent thinking that they want to move into a totally different area. How do you establish yourself as going from who the hell, what's Manor, to, oh, hey, Kev again, how are you?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of agents try to overcomplicate real estate. I don't think you can simplify real estate to if you call more people than the guy next to you, you'll beat the guy next to you. So it's just a numbers game. Because when I look at back, 13 years ago when I was doing a lot of calls and bringing in several listings at a very young age, 18, 19 years old, I wasn't smart. I probably looked very dagging. I only had one suit for 2 years. There were stains all over it. It was oversized. It was awesome. But people were still giving me listings. I'd knock on the door. People would still pay attention. And even though I probably lost some because of the way I looked and probably lost some because of the age I sounded on the phone, I was still able to overcome it because I was connecting with over 100 people every single day, where the guy next to me might connect with 20 or 30. So I just outworked
numbers games.
Yeah. So I don't really know anything other than hard work ethic, and putting your head down, ass up, and just going for it.
So you're doing 100 call, like
100 plus connections.
100 plus, is that a call? What does that mean?
Like they might answer and tell me to, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or they might answer and have a good conversation with me. But I was having 100 of those, like people answering the phone
and having a good convo.
Yeah. Or some of them would be, see you later.
Telling you,
that's fine. But at the same time, they still answer their phone. So I had over 100 of those every single day, all on the doors.
And that first 2 years, when you said that you're in debt, you're owing Manor money, is that because you hadn't yet established and got the name out enough? It takes a while to get traction?
I wasn't working hard. Like, I moved, and I feel like everything changed for me at the very start, and I worked extremely hard because I, was bankrupt, and not bankrupt, I had no money, was living on the street, just came out of it, and I needed to make some money. Yeah. And then it was a bit more cushiony, didn't need money. Definitely didn't have any money to my name, but like nothing too serious where I was too concerned. Yeah. And then in essence, like I got kicked out again. Thought I was pretty much about
out
to
of your parents' house?
Yeah, again. So I moved back in, got kicked out. So this is 2 years into Manor, got kicked out, was about to be homeless.
Why'd you get kicked out?
I don't even remember that. I don't even remember that time, honestly. First time I got kicked out was over a phone at like 16 or 17 though. My parents didn't like the fact that I was texting on the phone after 8 p.m. Yeah, it was a weird one. But the second time I couldn't even tell you why. But I got kicked out, and I was moving in with my best mate. Didn't have any money for furniture. He paid for it all. Had to pay him back, and I was literally living week to week. And I was like, God damn! Like, I need to make some money now. So after that 2 year period, I was actually working Castle Hill, not Kellyville, for 2 years. I was trying to switch between the two, but mainly Castle Hill. Didn't get any momentum. Anyways, had this listing come up in Kellyville. Sold that. The buyer had a house to sell in Kellyville. And Jay at the time, my boss, he said, look, you need to just go hard in Kellyville. It's telling you to go Kellyville. I know you really want Castle Hill, but it's too competitive. Just go Kellyville, hit it hard. So I said, okay, well, I've only got one opportunity right now. Otherwise, I'm stuffed. I'm just going to work 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, until I don't have to do this anymore. I can put on an associate so I never have to do this again. Because
door knocking,
call calling, all the outbound. Because if I can just work really hard for a period of 3 months, I knew that I could produce X amount of listings, which could produce X amount of money, which then I can afford an associate, so I never have to do the thing I hate, which is cold calling and door knocking. Okay. Ever since I got that first associate, I haven't done a hell of a lot since. So you can have surface-based agents like myself, which might manage a team and they do a lot of the heavy lifting, or you can be an in-trenches agent where you have a team doing that, but you're also cold calling and calling your database still every single day. That agent will make more money than me in real estate.
Okay. But you just don't want to do it.
I did it for too long.
So you can now outsource it and stuff.
Yes.
Was there a listing in Kellyville that was like the sliding doors moment that opened, all those other ones? Was it the first one, or was it one that comes to...
It was the first one. It was actually the first listing I had in Kellyville, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even... Yeah. Was it?
What?
One. Yeah.
Tell me. You want to say something, but you don't.
So... Yeah, that first listing was... Well, I didn't even get it from... It's actually a funny story behind it. I'll tell it.
Yeah,
it's pretty funny.
Come on, that's what we're here for.
So I didn't actually mean to get this listing. I met this girl out at that, Rouse Hill Fiddler on a Saturday night. The Fiddler. And she goes, so what do you do? I'm like, I'm a real estate agent. She goes, oh, my parents are looking to sell. I'm like, oh, no way. I'm like, where? She goes, oh, I live on something there in Kellyville. I'm like, oh, really? And she goes, oh, don't door knock them or anything. I'm like, no, of course not. Next day I door knocked them, booked them in, sold it. And then, that's how it started.
Wow.
So Kellyville didn't come off a call or anything.
Did her parents know that you knew the daughter?
They found out after.
Eventually. And they were she with her?
I don't know. She told me that they found out, and that was that was like, I was thinking, okay, slide back.
All right, and then so 2 years of sort of hard grind and that sliding doors moment. But what happens after that with Kellyville, Manor Real Estate, and what's the journey look like from there?
Yeah, so worked in Kellyville, started pushing that pretty hard. Within the space of 2 years, was able to, because I just honed down in one suburb and one suburb only, there was a very dominant agent that was making several $1 million a year. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a hard slog. But he was actually easier to beat than I thought, which gave me confidence. I went harder. And then 2 years in, cracked number one. And we just put our foot down from there and just kept it for the past few years. There was one stage 2-3 years ago, I lost my number one spot, went down to number two. But at that point in time, like my business halved. I didn't work for a period of a couple of months, had a pretty bad breakup. So
okay, tell me about that. Can we touch into that? What happened?
Yeah. So
what happened?
So I was.
This is another partner, right? You've moved on from that original one.
Moved from the original one.
Yeah,
had another
the billionaire,
one.
the millionaire. Yeah,
that one. So was writing. I think I cracked 2.1 or something. $2.1 million. First you were cracking 2. And
hang on, let's break down that for people that aren't a real estate mind. So that is, you wrote that in gross commission?
I don't take anywhere near close to that. So it sounds really good, but it's not.
Yeah.
$2 million or $2.1 million of gross commission income. So anything that the gross amount of commission that comes in per property over the course of 12 months for the calendar year.
And that's not splitting half of that with the agency?
No, I've got to split, half of the agency and the rest of pay my agent. So it doesn't look anywhere near as good like that at all.
But you did 2 million?
Did that, cracked it, and then I had a breakup, and even though I broke it off, like it kind of rattled me a bit. And I was like, oh no. Then I took 2 months off work just to reset myself. Then I came back, and because I hadn't gone to a listing presentation, gone and pitched on business, I was very dusty. I kept losing, and that wasn't a very fun period. So, my business essentially halved from 2.1 to 1.2 million over the 12-month period.
Okay, and how'd you come back? What happened?
Well, I was...
There's got to be a story to this.
Yeah, there is another story to this. So, again, I feel like every single time in my life, now that I'm coming to think of it, only changes when something becomes drastically bad, which probably isn't a good thing. But I had an admin associate handling all my paying all my BAS and stuff, but she was paying on like the Amex card, and I wasn't paying attention to it. She was supposed to be paying it off every month, and she wasn't. So one day I get a call from Amex, hey, you owe $98,000. Like, you really got to pay this. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? And I had like maybe 200 grand in my bank. Yeah. So I was like, this is just before Christmas. I'm thinking, oh my God, my money's going to go down. It's halved and all this sort of stuff. And then later that day, my accountant goes, mate, we still need to do your tax return, like something to do with my tax return or something. And I owed an extra $100,000+ in tax or something that afternoon. I was like, no way. I'm like, I just went from, I thought I had 200 grand in my bank to literally nothing. Yeah. And I have no listings. It's Christmas period. I'm not going to be able to list anything for another month. I've got $30,000 of wages and everything else coming out, like rent and everything else coming out every single month. I'm like, I'm not going to get paid for another few months. I'm like 260 to 290 grand in the hole right now, essentially. Yeah. And then I had to go get another loan. Didn't tell my boss, didn't tell anyone. Yeah. And over the course of the year, I was like, damn, I really.
So wait, got another loan to take care of those. So then you just really had one debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I thought I had 200 grand.
But what about the 200 grand cash in the account? You spend
pay for those two, and then I still had 30 grand coming out every month, and I had no money.
30 grand per month.
Per month coming out as well.
I thought you meant 30 grand for that time period.
30 grand per month. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had like a team of 5. I had a huge team. I had all this marketing going out, like bus stops and this and that. I couldn't get out of the contracts. I was thinking, I'm stuffed. I got 30 grand coming out every month. I don't have anything listed. It's Christmas. I'm not going to get paid for another 3-4 months. There's 60 to, well, actually more. That would have been, 90 to 120 grand. Mm. Yeah. And I thought, well, I just went from having 200 grand in my bank, thought I was sweet, to owing essentially 90 to 120 grand. I'm essentially bankrupt. I'm like, what the hell?
Back to square one.
Like back to square one. And that's when I just put my head down and then redoubled again. So saved me again.
But what, I mean,
Just
easier said than done, but
going back to the basics.
You getting back on the phone?
Yeah. Calling, I was door knocking every day, went literally back to the basics, stripped everything back. I was like, all right, we're door knocking. And they're like, you're going to door knock? I'm like, yep, I'm door knocking. I went out and door knocked with them, showed my associates. I'm like, look, I can still do this. Yeah. Jumped on the phone, smashed the phones, and that lasted for, probably another 6 months. I had to do that, really grind hard, build the base back up again, build the pipeline of sellers back up again. And then, rode the wave back up again.
So. What sort of volume you do in a month when you're at the top of that wave, like in Kellyville market? It's obviously different with everywhere you go in Sydney, like obviously eastern suburbs and stuff, it's probably a lot less because they're more expensive. But like Kellyville, for example, like what's your average sale price and what are you turning over a month?
So average commission's like 35 grand in gross commission. So a lot smaller than your last guest of Ollie Lavers.
Yeah, Ollie,
way lower. But yeah, we were like at the peak. Even this month, we've got a pretty hectic month. We've got 12 going to auction next month. We just sold one next week. We've got 12 going to auction on Thursday night.
In a week?
Yeah.
Wow.
On one night. So that's going to be a pretty hectic night. And I just sold one this morning, which is good. So we'll sell, hopefully, let's say you sell 7 to 10, and then plus the other one I just sold. So we'll get anywhere between 8 to 11 sales this month. So it should be good. But if you go back 2-3 years ago when I did 2.1, we had a month where we sold 14 and we did 440 grand. Now, if you look at those numbers, if we did 14 now, it'd be a lot higher.
Yeah, okay, because the price of Kellyville's gone through the roof. Okay, and then you re-establish yourself, and what year, where are we in, like, in terms of timeline?
Yeah, so this would have been about, the rebuild started happening about 3 years ago, I think. So
at the start of COVID?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was probably the wrong time to start everything.
Wow. And when does the podcast come in? Is that yet?
This was, around that time, around 4 years ago. So we started Bothsides due to, I just met one of my associates' cousins, who I was actually friends with a few of his other cousins. He was just started as a buyer's agent. He calls me and he goes, you're actually doing an open home just down the street for me. Can I come say hello? I said, yeah, sure. So he came by, introduced himself, had a chat. And then a week later, he calls me and he goes, I seen you did this other podcast on YouTube. This is back years ago, 8 years ago when I was at Manor. Terrible. Absolutely horrible. We did like 4 or 5 episodes. So bad. I don't know how we had Matt Steinway on our first episode. I'm like, how did that happen? But then everything else after that was just horrible. Yeah. So he goes, would you do that again? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you got in the room with Matt Steinway. Maybe we can just learn off these people and do a podcast, but we will just learn and ask our own questions. I said, pretty smart. Let's just do that. It sounds pretty cool. No one will listen to us anyways. And then our first guest were pretty strategic. I was like, caught Matt Steinway. Matt couldn't do it. I was like, all right, what about Jordan, who he's co-agent with? And they were just the number one. They just got announced as the number one agent in McGrath for Australia that year. So we took him on and we're like, all right, great. We've got one of the team members for the number one McGrath team at the time on our podcast for our first guest. That's cool. And we learned a hell of a lot. I was obviously a lot more serious about real estate, learned a lot. And then we're like, okay, we'll do more. And we did another 5 episodes and they're probably pretty bad. I haven't even rewatched them yet, but we were learning a lot. And we're like, well, let's just keep doing it. No one was really watching us at the time. Like we weren't getting any views. We weren't posting anything on Instagram.
It's what happens with podcasts, right? You get to sit down and ask that person questions where they wouldn't have time for you. Correct. If you didn't have the cloud or the platform.
Literally. And even though, we didn't have the biggest platform at the time, they were like, we get to be on a podcast. Let's just do it. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, just gave us, leverage in terms of our own business, but obviously leveraged our personal brand once we started posting on Instagram and TikTok and everything. I don't even have TikTok, but TikTok we still post on. And it just expanded our own personal brands. But it didn't really hit for I reckon the first 2.5 years. Yeah. First 2.5 years, we were just doing it for fun. And then about, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, it became a lot more serious.
How long's it been going?
4 years.
4 years?
3 or 4 years.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe 3 or 4 years. Yeah. It was about halfway. The halfway point was when everything turned.
I always laugh when on LinkedIn these days, I see a new podcast started every week.
Oh,
right?
Do you?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that like, I think they obviously see what people like you and I are doing, and then they think, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. I want to do something like that. But they don't realize how much work it is.
No.
Like for you to put in 100 episodes, we're not even at 100 yet, but like, I mean, 90, this will come out and be like, in high 90s. To put in 100 episodes, and even if you had no one watching, to keep going every week, the effort that it takes to put in.
Yeah.
That's why I think there's a Hormozy or someone like that says like there's a crazy start that like 90% don't get past one episode, and of those, like the ones that get past, I think it's like 21, only 10% get to there, and it's like you're not dealing with all those people, you're only dealing with a very small portion of people. But I'm interested to hear, did that help with you being an agent at all, or more personal brand play?
It at first there was a lot more other businesses that have helped out in attracting other business ventures.
Yep.
But of the past, year and a half, 2 years, I learned how to really leverage the podcast within the business. So I'd say, I just podcasted with, now I've got something in my document that I take out to houses where it says, I've podcasted with, Alexander Phillips, #1 real estate agent in Australia. Marty Fox is the judge of the block. And
shout out Marty Fox. I just did a video with those guys.
I saw that yesterday.
Yeah.
Killed it. So I'd be like, yep, these are the guys that I podcasted with, learned off, and then off the back of it, I know these people, and that's where I bring in a lot of attention into it. So I would send out DL cards, like little printed postcards, send it out to my whole whole suburb of Kellyville, 7,000 drops every fortnight, wow. With Bothsides Podcast, QR link to the Spotify and everything else, saying, yeah,
that's how you're getting the listens, huh? The DL flyers. See you go, Trav.
DL cards. And then on the other side, I'd have a sold result so they wouldn't think I'm just a podcaster. And they'd be like, oh, so I then started to get calls off the back of it. And these are people, my clients, who would then start to listen to the podcast. Even though, they might not necessarily like the real estate agents. We might have a finance broker. We might have other entrepreneurs jump on. We're not just real estate, very entrepreneurial based now. They started to attract a lot of listens from locals. And that's when I started to leverage hard in listing appointments, bringing up the fact that I podcast with these people. But even before they get there, even before I got to the home, they'd get DL cards about it. I'd send them a message saying, hey, thanks for inviting me. Check out my last podcast with this person. I could have Christian Stevens that you met with last week, #1 broker in Australia, just had, this is my last podcast with a #1 broker in Australia. So it just aligns yourself with the top 1%.
Interesting play. Yeah. And then COVID hits. Pretty interesting time for real estate agents.
Yeah. It was very interesting. We were... I thought I was going to make $0. I couldn't even show a house for a period of like a month or something, or 2 months, something crazy. It was very weird. And then after that, the market just picked up hard. Like it started booming. I don't know why. Like it just started hammering really hard. Market grew and became a lot easier. It was a period of only like maybe a month or a couple of months where we couldn't really show properties as an open home. Yeah. You'd have like 30 people waiting outside, do one-by-one inspections.
Oh, is that how it had to happen during COVID?
Yeah, painful.
Okay.
Stupidly painful. So we didn't really make a lot of money for the first few months, regardless of anything else that was happening. And then as soon as the market started to pick back up after April or whatever it was, May, things changed.
Things changed, and the COVID sort of kicked in a gear. Everyone thought there was going to be 30 to 40% house price drops, right?
Yeah, I did too.
And then everything went the other way.
Yeah, and then everything, went completely the other way.
Okay, and then out of COVID and the last couple of years, you have now built sort of like a team around you, and like what's the goal, long-term real estate and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I built up a team. The biggest point I had my team was 5 associates underneath me. We've scaled back to 3. We've obviously had other business ventures come off the podcast, and that's taken my time away from listing and selling real estate. I'm still obviously on the ball managing vendors and talking to high-level key buyers, so I'm the one that closed the deal this morning. It's not so much my associates. I'll still close deals, but at the end of the day, my time's been taken a lot away from real estate with other business ventures, to the point where I've now decided that from this point, I'll be co-listing a lot of my listings unless it's someone personal that I know. That way I can make sure that I've got a director of Manor or a high-level senior person at Manor coming to list the properties with me. They can help manage the vendor and the buyers. If, for example, I've got something like this on, So I can actually still manage other business ventures while I'm still transitioning out of real estate. So probably another 12 plus months in real estate, being able to manage and handle my vendors, supplement income until other business ventures that I'm doing take off and everything else.
Kicking off. But are you over the real estate and the deal making and stuff like that? Like, why? You've obviously done that for a long time. I'm hoping you'd say you enjoy it. You know, why would you move? I know these things take up a lot more time, but it's a completely different world, you know, rather than like the selling, the deal, the chase that I hear a lot of real estate agents. I've had a couple on that they love and they're obsessed with, you know. I asked Ollie Lavers the other week, I was like, what are you doing when you're not listing and not at work? What do you do on a Sunday? He goes, it's real estate. I love work, right? Some of your business ventures will be around that, but like, will you miss the deal or like?
I miss the chase, the thrill and the kill for sure. The deal, love it. Like, that's why I love handling the negotiation. I still love that part of it, but most other parts I don't really enjoy. So sorry to break it, but no, I think I've reached like.
You're honest. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I feel like I've reached I feel like I'm having a midlife crisis because I'm looking at all these. To be honest with you, I didn't look off real estate until it got thrown in my face, but I did feel that like it was a few years ago, you know, there was chatter about maybe directorship at Manor, and I was, you know, having a conversation. I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this, like I don't know if I want to manage the business. It doesn't feel like I'm just going to stay to listing selling. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this forever though. Like, it's very time consuming. You know, you work still 12, 14, 16 hour days to, you know, run that many campaigns and sell them all effectively, and like making sure that all clients are happy and not leaving anything missed.
Yep.
It's a very time consuming job. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to be working these sorts of hours forever. I also don't want to lose money though. So how's it going to be supplemented? And then it wasn't until last year, my current boss came to me and goes, oh, you know, you should look at doing recruitment. That would be pretty cool. Like, leverage your who knows you. And I said, oh yeah, sounds pretty good. He goes, so would you do that? I'm like, oh yeah, sounds all right. And then I thought about it, sounded pretty good. And then a few months later, he goes, all right, I'm going to introduce you to your business partner, Tim. I'm like, for what? And he goes, the recruitment agency. You said you'd be interested. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, anyways, introduced me, had a full business plan already drawn up. I'm like, what is going on?
That sounds like a plan there, yeah.
Yeah, so that obviously came into play. And then off the back of everything else, I started getting thrown all these other opportunities as well. And in essence, it's gotten to the point where it's taken up so much of my time now. The money hasn't come through yet.
Yeah.
The money still hasn't come through at all from the other businesses, which is, you know, a risk I'm having to take. But at the end of the day, it's gotten to a point where I'm like, well, I know I don't want to be, you know, sitting in living rooms until 8, 9 p.m. every night. I don't. I want to be doing other things which are outside of that realm. But I've been doing this for 13 plus years now. So it's gotten to a point where I feel like I've done this so much. I don't get enjoyment out of calling a million people anymore. I used to, and I used to love it for years and years and years. Ollie loves it, but he still loves it. I can't sit there and do that anymore.
So what does the ideal day for Kevin Buchanan look like
now?
Yeah, 2025.
I don't have one just yet. I'll be honest with you. So I'm running completely on the fly, just trying to get all these businesses up and running. Once, you know, a few of these kick off and money starts to come in, that's when I'll start to scale back more and more. But because of the nature of these businesses, and might be doing something at 11 p.m., might be, you know, having to get up early, come here, whatever it may be, there's no set day anymore. It sounds a bit weird, but I feel like I'm just in a few startups right now, which should be high level, and it's like I don't know, because every day is different. I wish I did, but I don't.
Yeah, fair. I mean, that's the beauty of it is just I found that too with the pod, and you would testify to this, is like the more people you meet, you know, and you talk to, and the opportunities come up. If you're stuck at a desk for, you know, you're paid for 8 hours a day, but the way I looked at it before I left was I'm leaving home at 7:30 a.m. I'm getting home at, I'm different to you, but I'm getting home at 6:30 p.m. So I saw it as like an 11-hour commitment a day. that, and then your employer wants you at your desk. Maybe a bit different with real estate, but I was just like, for me, the trade-off's not there because I know what I'm going to make at the end of the year. But I know if I run it, this thing 100 miles an hour with all my time, energy, and effort, and an extra 11 hours a day,
it's hard, right?
Opportunities are endless, though. So Caliber Talent, just to summarise, that is recruitment. What does that business specialise in?
Yeah, so it's a talent agency. So it's not just recruitment. So we've had over 1,200 applicants. We haven't even hard launched it yet, but we've had over 1,200 applicants so far. They get screened through an AI system where they enter in all like long-winded answers. Yep. But it tests if they've got the grit, determination, everything else to actually be successful in real estate. Then they get interviewed by a CEO. Our CEO interviews them, and she was head of HR divisions and what have you. So she scrutinizes them again after that. We've only taken on 10 applicants of over 1,200.
Has the 1,200 people all done that survey?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay.
They've all been wiped. We've only got 10 after that. We're not going to be working with every agency. So one pain point I saw with the recruiters is they'd grab, this happened to one of my bosses once, they grabbed an associate from his team, brought it to a competing office down the road, and then got an associate from the competing office, brought it to him, then grabbed another associate from his team and brought it to the other agency. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like stuff there. So we're only working with particular agencies per area, so that stuff doesn't happen. And it's not just placing a recruit. We're also teamed up with Renee Lodens, who actually has done quite a bit of work and actually worked at TRG.
Yeah, Renegade. I've seen she's making some moves.
She's making some moves for sure. And then with Chantel, from one of the directors of Bressick Whitney, who heads up the property management division. They've all teamed up, plus a few others. They've teamed up with us. So they do a 2-week boot camp before we place them, get them all up and running. We've teamed up with an RTO agency, so registered training organisation. Mm-hmm. They then, if they haven't got their certificate, they'll get their certificate, get them before they get placed. And they also license the agent or the property manager throughout that period as well. So that's all covered off by us. Then for a period of 12 months, they're also on a monthly session with either Renee Loden, Chantel, and they get to ask all their own questions. And then bi-monthly, I'll be doing Zoom sessions with the top 1% guys. So for example, Ollie Lavers would love to have on to jump on with a Zoom with all these other associates. Yep. They get to ask their own questions with the top 1% every 2 months. Every 2 months. Yeah.
And then you place them within that organisation.
Yeah.
Man, and that sounds, right.
And to save, the other big thing was, we don't want to be paying all this money, then the agent or associate just leaves in 12 months. How do you stop that? Because obviously you can't after 12 months. But we've made anyone that's a recruit of ours, with our retention model, there's a fee that they sign that they then have to pay the agency back if they decide to leave within 18 months.
Within 18 months. Nice.
Yeah. So
you'd hope if you train them up and you'd position them in an agency that they want to join, then they'd be committed to it and know what they're getting themselves in for. There's no surprises.
Exactly. So
and what other business ventures have you've got going? You've got a couple of other ones that I've seen.
Yeah.
The foundation.
Yeah. So Oak Kids Foundation started. It was 2-3 years ago. Went to Bali with my partner, and I was like, I was homeless, and then we went past an orphanage, and I was like, I was homeless, let's go give some money out. So gave some money, felt really good. I was like, felt really good. And we were like, can you take us to another 2 orphanages? Did that a couple of times. Ended up at Bali later that year, same year, met up with a friend who introduced me to another friend. I was telling them, they did this last time I was in Bali. They're like, that sounds sick. Do you want to do that again? I was like, you guys want to do it? They're like, yeah. Like they had hard lives too. And they're like, yeah, would love to do that. And this is on Christmas Day. I'm like, all right, well, let's spend Christmas doing it.
You were in Bali on Christmas Day?
Yeah.
There you go.
So that happened on Christmas Day a few years ago, and let's just spend our Christmas doing it. We loved it. And we're like, let's do this every year. So we've done that 3 years in a row now.
Every Christmas?
Every Christmas,
You go over to Bali and do the...
Yeah, so Bali has been the past 3 years, but next year won't be. We'll be going other places as well.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And have you found that's more a give back and a fill the cup?
Yeah, definitely a give back. So that first year, what happened was I was like, I posted it on my story. I was like, going to an orphanage today. If anyone wants to donate, let me know. Anyways, I had like 10 grand come in that day. I was like, what? I'm like, this is mental. And I was like, all right, well, next year, let's just post it then and we can get even more money in.
Yeah.
So obviously we don't make any money off it and we put in way more than we actually get in anyways.
Yeah.
So we just started posting it as well so we can just have money coming in so we can get more out, like give more out on top of what we're giving out.
And that's because of sort of your background and your childhood, right?
Yeah.
I think we skipped over, but talk to me about the story about where does the trap house come into play?
Oh, the trap house came into play because I had little to no money. I wasn't making much money as an associate.
What agency you're at?
So there was actually 2 times. First time was...
Jesus, man.
Yeah, no, it was 2 times. First time was when I was really young. That was like 16 or something. That was over the phone, 16 or 17, one of the two, before I actually started work. Then the second time came after that when I was working, and I think I was working at Ray White Box Hill at the time, doing land sales, but I didn't sell anything. Yeah. So I wasn't making any money. It was just base wage of like $1,000 a week maybe. That's it. Not even. That's before tax too. So wasn't making any money. I was like, how am I going to pay rent? This sucks. And I'm getting pushed out of home again. I don't even know why. And I was like, all right, well, I don't have anywhere to live. I'm like, I can't afford rent. And I was like, all right, I'll go into Gumtree and Facebook and find a shared room. And everything was still like $200-$300. And I was maybe getting $700-$800 after tax. And I just bought like a $90,000 car because I'm an idiot. And I was like, yeah, it was a brand new BMW.
Oh,
the 320.
Shit taste as well,
bro.
Oh,
terrible. And this is when I was like 8. This was only disgusting. Yeah. This is a couple of years later, 18 or 19. Something like that around there. Oh no, would have had to be later. This would have been 21.
Wow.
This would have been 21. Yeah, so 21 this happened and wasn't making any money. And then I saw this, it was like $100 for the room. I'm like, no way. So I hit him up, I'm like, hey bro, this is in Castle. I'm like, hey bro, like I saw your ad. Can I please take the room? They're like, and they called me, they're like, oh, like, how old are you? I'm like, oh, I'm 21. Must have been 21. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, we're 25 to 30. There's 3 of us here. I'm like, oh, sweet. They're like, before we take you on, we just want to make sure we get along with you. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I pop by and they're like, oh, you seem like, they like me. They seem like a cool guy. They're like, do you care if we smoke weed and stuff? And I was like, nah, it's fine. It's all good. Yeah. Anyways, moved in. And then, the first night there was like a big, huge plate of like all this ketamine. I was like, the hell is that? They're like, I thought it was coke. I'm like, it's ketamine. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. I didn't even know what ketamine was at that age. I was like, what's going on? And then, that's how the trap house started. Stayed there for, I wasn't very long. It was probably 4 months, 5 months. Wow. And I was like, I can't do this.
That age you or what?
Oh yeah, it was bad. It was definitely bad. And that's at the exact same time that I had another breakup, and that's when I actually quit from. So I moved in that time. I quit there, moved to McGrath and like Mossman in that period. And then I had another break. I was like, oh, I'm quitting there. So I quit there, moved back around, and I had no job for like 2-3 weeks. I had no money. Everything was just bad. So I've gone through periods for sure, like a big roller coaster my life's been. But I'm very thankful that every time something bad's happened, I've come out of it on top, and things have actually gotten better for me because of it. Okay,
but what brings you out? What brings you out of that place to
need, a necessity?
Okay, I think just to live.
To live, yeah.
Money for life.
So, yeah, it's been wild, but I wouldn't change anything for sure. But yeah, definitely a necessity and need for it.
Man, that's a crazy story, and I appreciate you sharing it. And I think what's also cool, and what we're talking about, what's on the horizon for yourself and Bothsides Podcast. What are you sort of working on, and what's 2025 look for where you're at now? Because you've come a long way, and you're talking offline what we spoke about at the start, but it's really cool to see young bloke like yourself giving it a go, especially with people that think that they can't do like anything these days, and they've got like a roof over their head, mum and dad, maybe they've got like a steady, decent income, like they're half of the way there, right? You know what I mean? Like if you can come all the way from where you started to where you are now, I think it shows many people that, you can do anything that you actually want to go and do. So what are the plans? Tell me, what's next steps?
So next steps, so we want to do more tours. So we've done, Melbourne tours and Queensland tours and bits and pieces before. We want to probably branch out more into an international market. So going more, looking at, would love to go to America, would love to go to Dubai, would love to go to New Zealand, other places like that, and really expand it from just Australia. At the same time, more, because obviously real estate is been such a big part, but at the same time we've been looking at different meetings. We've had different guests on, which is open our eyes to different things, and we're probably going to go more down an entrepreneurial path now. Obviously top 1% of real estate we'll still target, but anything else we'll try to do more entrepreneurial, health optimization, stuff like that. But stuff that really interests both myself and Daniel, because we've found that if we bring passion to it and it's something we really like, we didn't start this to make money. We didn't start it for anything other than we loved it and we wanted to ask our own questions. So we want to make sure we keep it that way. And if that means we veer away more from agents and go more, health optimization, stuff like that, that's what we're going to do. Just because that's where, we want to do that. We still want to work with the top 1% of agents because we want to learn from them too. After that, this is the only hint I'll give, we'll look to do a conference sometime next year. So that's in the background.
Next year, 2026 Sydney?
2026 Sydney.
Heard it here first. All right,
everything property, brother.
Yeah, everything property. You got the goods, got the secret. I appreciate you sharing. The way we usually wrap up each episode is we ask for a golden nugget and also a quote you live your life by. So what's your golden nugget to anyone that's listening to this podcast, has just heard your story, that you can give to them in wisdom and experience for their 2025 or their life from today onwards?
Good question. I feel like, and I've had this happen so many times in the past, obviously, you think nothing's going to get better. You're like, oh my gosh, this is it. Everything's over. Walls are caving in, whether it be a breakup, whether it be about money, whether it be about family, whatever it is. You just don't think you're going to get out of it. And then I bet you a month later, you look back and you're like, oh, it was okay. Everything's fine. That's the one thing that always brings me back in those bad moments. I always look back and I go, well, every time I thought it wasn't going to be better, it ended up getting better. And everyone's been through that. So always remembering that when times are tough, because in my experience, it doesn't matter how good things are, something is always bound to just take a left turn when you want to go right. I'm like, well, if I can't control that sometimes, and sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, I think I've gotten a lot better with controlling it, but just making sure that you always understand when things are going wrong, it always has to happen. Just go through it, feel it, you're human, and just go through your day making sure that you know that things are going to get better. I think that's the big golden nugget, just making sure that you know that things are always going to get better no matter how bad it gets. That's
quality. I like that. And it's also true. I'm thinking about times where I was like, this is the end of the world.
Yeah.
And everything comes full circle. Yeah, I think just always push through. It always does get better. And tell me, Kevin Buchanan, what is a quote you live your life by?
It's not a quote from anything else other than my old boss, and it was, if you make more calls than the guy next to you, you'll win. Now, I take that quote not just in terms of calling, but anything in terms of life. If I, for example, podcasting, if I just reach out to more people than anyone else, surely someone's going to say yes and I'll win. It doesn't matter how many, recruiters there are. If I just call more recruits and I call more top-level agents for these recruits, I'm probably going to win. So it's just knowing that, and it's maybe not so much the calls, it's more work ethic. If I put in more work than the guy next to me, I should win. So it doesn't matter if he's better, smarter, better looking, whatever it may be. If I just work harder than him, I'll win.
Hard work. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't try hard.
That's probably a better quote. We'll use that
one. All right, Kev, appreciate you coming on, mate. And we'll talk to you soon. Can't wait to see what you guys get up to with both sides in the events and stuff like that, mate. So thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.